Hola chicos, bienvenidos a esta videoclase de Educación Tecnológica. Como ya hemos visto en la anterior guía de contenidos de la materia, la primera necesidad de comunicación entre los seres humanos se limitaba a interacciones sencillas entre individuos, utilizando gestos, sonidos que lentamente fueron constituyendo el lenguaje y signos o dibujos pintados en las cuevas. Se desarrolla así la transmisión oral del mensaje, un modo de comunicarnos que continúa hasta nuestros días. Ahora bien, ¿y si es necesario trasladar ese mensaje? Los sumerios utilizaron las tablillas de arcilla y el sistema de escritura cuneiforme. Los egipcios inventaron el papiro, una especie de papel realizado a partir de las fibras de las plantas que crecían en el Nilo y de tal calidad que muchos de los documentos egipcios creados sobre papiros se conservan hasta nuestros días con el contenido intacto y vivos colores. Luego, los chinos utilizaron cortezas de árboles, desechos de cáñamo, trapos rotos, viejas redes de pesca y fibras vegetales para fabricar papel, logrando de esta manera distinto tipo de papeles de diversas calidades y propiedades para diferentes usos. Pero, ¿todos podían leer y escribir? No, es muy importante tener en cuenta que hasta bien entrado el siglo XIX, solo algunos pocos privilegiados podían leer y escribir, acceder a la educación y de esta manera al conocimiento. En la Edad Media, la mayor parte de la población no sabía leer, por lo que además de comunicarse oralmente, lo hacía a través de símbolos, como lo eran las imágenes religiosas que presentaban a los personajes bíblicos y narraban sus historias. Las figuras de los carteles en lugares públicos que indicaban la actividad que se realizaba en el local. Los escudos de armas y estandartes que indicaban si quien lo portaba era un noble, un monarca o un súbdito, la región de donde provenía, la familia, religión y los compromisos contraídos. Así es que surge la tradición por la cual las naciones adoptan los escudos nacionales y otras insignias patrias, los colores que nos identifican. Producir libros en aquellas épocas era un proceso arduo, costoso y muy pero muy lento.
In the Middle Ages, parchment was used to make the pages of books. Parchment was made from the skins of animals. The transition from a fresh skin to a surface suitable for writing was a slow and laborious process. The parchment maker selected skins of sheep, goats, or calves. Skins were soaked in lime water for 3 to 10 days to loosen the animal's hair. The parchment maker then scraped away the hair and any remaining flesh. After this, the skin was soaked in fresh water to remove the lime and then stretched tightly on a frame. A special rounded knife was used to scrape the hide to the desired thickness. The process of scraping continued over the course of several days. During this time, the parchment maker continually tightened the tension on the stretching frame while the skin dried. The result was parchment, a smooth and durable material that could last over 1,000 years. Before parchment could be written on, it had to be specially prepared. First, the parchment was rubbed with pumice powder to roughen the surface, and then dusted with a sticky powder. These steps made the surface receptive to inks and colors. The whole finished skin was then cut down to the size of the pages needed for a particular book. A big manuscript was assembled from sheets almost as large as a single skin. For smaller books, the skin was cut into 2 or more pieces. The parchment sheets were folded and nested to make gatherings, usually of 16 or 20 pages. The vibrant illuminations in a medieval manuscript often overshadow the words on the page, yet the writing of the script was as important as the painting of the images. The tools of a scribe, the person who copied the text onto the page, were simple. Pens, called quills, were made from the feathers of a bird, which were soaked in water, dried, and hardened with heated sand. The scribe carved the quill to a rough point, cut a slit to draw ink down, then trimmed the point to the proper width. The shape of the quill point varied with the style of the lettering being copied. Scribes made ink from a variety of materials. Gallnuts, growths found on oak trees, were often used to create a dark black ink. Black ink was also made by dissolving a common carbon substance. The resulting ink was called lampblack. Before the scribe began writing, he ruled the parchment using a straight edge. Medieval scribes and their patrons prized a regular and elegant script. If a scribe made an error, he would scratch it out with a penknife. Because the page was made from parchment, which was very resilient, it could stand many erasures of this type. An illuminator decorated the pages of a manuscript using paint and precious metals. He began only after a scribe had finished copying the text. The illuminator first sketched his design, then added details, such as the features of a figure or the interlacing of a decorated initial. Thin sheets of precious metals, like gold leaf, were always applied first. The illuminator put down a base coat, consisting of either a plaster-like substance called gesso or a gum, as shown here. Once the gum base dried, the moisture in the illuminator's breath was enough to make the small piece of gold leaf stick to the page. Then the illuminator brushed away the excess and polished the gold leaf. After applying the gold leaf, the illuminator painted his design. Each color was made from a vegetable dye or a mineral substance ground up and dissolved in liquid. The illuminator applied the paler shades first, then the darker tones. Once the illuminator applied black outlines and delicate white highlights to the figures and vines, the illumination was finished. After the scribes and illuminators had finished writing and decorating the parchment pages, the manuscript was bound. Groups of folded sheets of parchment, called gatherings, were sewn together with strong linen thread onto flexible supports, such as these narrow leather thongs. Next, the binder attached end bands, which secured the top and bottom ends of the pages in the spine of the book. The binder then laced the leather thongs along the spine through channels and tunnels, which had been carved into wood boards. These boards were the covers of the manuscript. The thongs could be held in place by wood pegs or iron nails. The volume was then covered, usually with leather. Without pressure from the covers to keep the leaves flat, parchment expanded and contracted with changes in temperature and humidity. Pressure was applied by the addition of clasps or straps, which held the book closed. The binding of a manuscript could be decorated with any one of a variety of materials. A manuscript might be covered with leather, stamped or tooled with gold, or covered with silks or velvets. The most elaborate bindings received sculpted decoration made from precious metals. The materials of the binding depended on the wealth of the patron, the type of manuscript, and its intended use.
Esto fue así hasta 1440, cuando el orfebre alemán Johannes Gutenberg inventa la imprenta de tipos móviles, que es básicamente el sistema que se usó desde entonces y hasta la actualidad para las impresiones que no son digitales.
He just took a bowl, put a handle on it, stuffed it with horsehair and covered it with, guess what, Gänsefleisch, goose skin. So this is the way he would roll the ink onto the ink ball. Now he used 2 ink balls because that would speed up the process of inking. So he has to rub the ink balls together so that they're both exactly the same. We've got to get the ink perfectly smooth over the whole surface of the ink ball, the same thickness. and evenly distributed. And so rolling up the balls did take a little practice and a little skill and also a little time. Now we have to come straight down with the ink balls to get the ink just on the tops of those letters. So coming straight down, we begin to apply the ink to the tops of those letters. Okay, I think we're about ready to go. What's the next thing he has to have to print on?
Paper.
He printed about 180 copies of that first Bible, 40 of them on animal skin, and the rest of them he was able to print on paper. Paper had just been invented in China and had come to Europe through Italy. He's got to figure out how to print on the other side and line it up exactly. And so here's the answer to that problem, the tympan and the frisket. We'll open it up here. These little points called duckbills position it up and down. And then the mark left and right here. Now watch this, these pins poke through the paper. Now the frisket comes down to hold the paper against the tympan. It's cut out there where we're going to print. It also allows us to lift that paper back up off that sticky type without smearing it or tearing it because it's damp. So we're ready to fold the bed of the press under the platen. The next thing that happens is to pull a handle which turns the screw and lowers the platen and presses the paper against the inky type.
Si llegaste hasta aquí, comenta cuántas páginas podía imprimir el invento de Gutenberg por cada prensada. Si tenés dudas o preguntas, déjalas en el correspondiente post de Classroom. Nos vemos en la próxima videoclase.